Dun, 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 dun. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. What's up, party people in the house?
What up, though?
Welcome to Axis Live, one of the sexiest voices in the SFL,
Mr. Master.
Dave Axis. What's up, party people of the SFL? Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Season 16, Episode 8 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis. We have another awesome show, a crazy panel tonight. We're doing Week 4 recaps. We're doing Week 4 Diva of the Week nominees. We've got Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom. Apparently, I need to eat a little crow when it comes to Denver. And we're not going to have a real After Dark. Cam may pop on, Doyle may pop on, talk to all the Florida haters apparently, but I've asked Cam to pop on to recap a couple things as well, but it won't be very long. Also, want to let you know, I know that we're probably going to have low numbers tonight. A lot of people out there without power. Thoughts and prayers with all of you. Please, stay safe, stay warm. Appreciate all of you that are actually in the chat able to make it tonight. Appreciate that. That being said, I also wanted to cover something else. Frank the Franchise Wade was supposed to be here tonight. He's had travel issues all week and is still not at home. He's stuck in LA right now. So so Tyler was gonna fill in for him. Well, Tyler's without power tonight. So now we have Bo Martin Jr. is going to fill in for him. Or I'm sorry, Benji's going to fill in for him. And then I got a call from Eddie Gage, who was also supposed to be on the show. They cut the contractors working at his house, cut the Cat 5 line, and he is now without internet for the foreseeable future. So we've got two last-minute fill-ins. So there might be a few games where we don't have the normal detail that we have. So just bear with us. And I thank those guys, Benji and Bo, for even coming in at the last second and filling in for us anyway. All right. All of that being said, let's check out the party people in the house. What is this? We got a hype train going already, Winkler? I see a hype train, 70%. Holy smokes. 2 minutes left on that.
We need to get you a conductor's hat.
Whoop, whoop. All right. Let's see. Looks like Will Todd's doing it. He subscribed to Tier 1. I guess I got things rolling. Will Todd's in the house. Mac Anthony. Cam Curtis is here. Freddie, Boomberry, Charles, Nicholas Warner, Bob Funk, Bullet Boletsky, Alan from Charleston. Leon Thunderman says, what's up, folks? Checking into this show for the first time to see what it's all about. Leon, I don't know if you're already part of the SFL. If you're not, I'm sure somebody would be happy to put the link in the show chat for the SFL. This is a show that talks about the Simulation Football League. Dwayne is in the house. The long arm of the law is here. Doug Britton. Doug Britton, congrats, bro. That was a sweet return this week. Winkler's in the house, of course. The lovely and amazing Pink Lisa's with us as usual. Nate Hall, Kendra Hall, Ray. Who else we got here? The Riddler's back. Good to see you, bro. David Leather's in the house. Tom Rahman's here. What's up, Tom Rahman? Joey Schwent is with us as always. Art Vandelay, what's up, bro? Let me see. Who am I missing? Deep Say's back. DR Sims here. DR, congrats. 100th touchdown, 100 and 101. Congrats, bro. Hugo's here with us. Robert, of course. Good thing Robert's here, or I'd be down like 3 guys tonight. Let me see. Will Todd already said. And an anonymous cheerer is here. Glad to see that. And Achilles just popped in. Who else we got? Benji Matson, of course. Unspoken 55. Wow, we got a lot more people than I expected tonight with all the power issues, weather issues going on. So I think that's everybody. It looks like Cam. Someone give Axis pulling the train horn, then throw it in the garbage. Cam, I'm throwing your comment in the garbage. How about that? Swole, good to see you, buddy. Fox Highwind, what? There's a fox sighting? Winkler clipped that or something. I don't know when we'll see that again. James Walters 87's in the house. Alien Nation back with us, of course. And Jason France, Viva La France is here. Is that everybody putting together top place tonight? Good for you, Cam. Can't wait for those. And I think that's yes, I agree with you, Cam. That was a trash comment by you. All right. Oh, and Gunny's here, of course. So on Greg Soto sneaking in. Hello there, Greg. How are you? All right. Let's get things kicked off. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we not only have subs, we have subs on our subs tonight. So what does the fox say? Throw me the ball. Throw me the ball. That's hilarious, Cam. See, Cam, you actually have something funny to say once in a while. It's amazing. All right, let's introduce our panel tonight. Filling in for Eddie, who was filling in for Frank Wade in the unscripted circle, is the glorious cornerback from the glorious Lone Star Glory, Mr. Bo Martin Jr. Bo Martin Jr., thanks for filling in last minute. How you doing, bro?
I am fantastic. It is a glorious Tuesday evening here, and I'm happy to be on the show.
Good. I appreciate you filling in at the last second. In the unfiltered circle, no stranger to the show, no stranger to the SFL. The vice president of everything that is Fort Worth Toros, Robert Garrett Jr. We got all the juniors lining up tonight, is with us. Robert, what's going on with you, bro?
Oh, not too bad. Just trying to stay warm like most of the SFL seems to be trying to do.
Yeah, and no hat tonight, huh?
I got one on.
You have a hat on? Oh, it's backwards. I see it. All right. In slot number 3 in the unedited circle, the assistant GM of Vancouver, I'm sorry, it's the GM of Vancouver now, I think. Mike Percoco is with us. Mike, GM or assistant GM? I get you and Mike all mixed up all the time. I either got all the juniors or I got all the Mikes. I don't know.
It's your show, Dave. You can call me whatever the hell you want.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do that in After Dark. We don't want the kids hearing that, but I do like your hat that you stole from Tyler, it looks like.
Yeah, 2 and 12 club, baby.
Nice. That's sweet. Looks like our hype train got 100%, by the way, everybody. Sweet. Will Todd, thanks for kicking that off. Appreciate that. And EJ Minson got a sub. I'm sure EJ's thrilled to have a sub to my show. Atta boy. Coco-licious. Is that what you want me to call him, Cam? All right. And last, certainly not least, in the unforgettable circle, filling in for Tyler. Was Tyler filling in for somebody else? I don't even know now. We're playing musical chairs so much, I don't even know. But filling in for Tyler tonight in the unforgettable circle is the one, the only, the sexiest tight end that does not play for my team, Benji Matson. Benji, what's up, bro?
Hey-o, I'm just here so I wouldn't have to put the kids to bed.
Yeah, that's it. I was wondering, you're like blowing me up. You're like, hey, can I help out tonight? Can I help out tonight?
Yep.
Can I help out? I guess that makes sense.
It really worked out well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Actually, thank Tyler. Tyler's the one.
Thanks, Tyler.
To thank on that. All right. So, Bo Martin Jr., I know you didn't have a lot of prep time on this, but let's get things rolling into game number 1 from this weekend. We had a Louisiana-Atlanta game, a Louisiana team that was 0-3, been getting beat up a little bit. Johnny Pickler came on last week. We grilled him a little bit about what's wrong with him and what's wrong with his team. And, kudos to Johnny. He stood up. He took the hot seat well. And then all of a sudden, they go into Atlanta and beat them by double digits in a place, the Hive, that is not an easy place to win, Bo.
Yeah, and that is I'm happy to say that I actually predicted that Louisiana would get their first victory on last Thursday's show. And basically what happened is I think Johnny Pickler stripped a lot of things away and just kind of went back to a little bit of his old self as far as being a game manager.
Yeah.
Because looking at his numbers, there was nothing that's going to jump out at you. He went 18 for 30. He had 159 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. So what Louisiana ended up having to do is they had to be efficient with the ball. Reggie Streeter had some, pretty good numbers, not his tremendous numbers that he usually has. He had 21 carries for 98 yards, which is decent, which is good for an average running back.
Right.
4.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And here's what I thought was really telling about Louisiana. Reggie got hurt in the third quarter. And so it was a perfect time for Louisiana to fall apart, but they didn't. They held it together. Granted, they had to go on with their backup running back, but they held it together. Mike Twin Screw, excuse me, came through with four carries for 41 yards, and they basically held it together. So, and then on the flip side of the ball, Atlanta had 420 total yards. So it looks like a good day. Bryant Dynasty, 24 attempts for, 24 completions with 24 out of 45. He went for 363 yards. Sounds like a great day, right? Until you find out.
Yep.
Until you get to the part where it seems, I thought I was looking at it wrong. I thought I had my touchdowns and interceptions flipped, but no, he had 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So it seemed like Brian Dynasty kind of caught a little bit of the interception bug there. But what really stuck out to me, Dave, is that BDG Hollywood got held to 13 attempts for only 53 yards. And I would have lost money betting on that, because I never would have thought BDG would get held to those kind of numbers. It seemed like BDG and Bryant Dynasty both kind of got held back. I guess Louisiana had the perfect strategy for them. Boo Chisholm did his thing, 7 receptions, 134 yards. Jamal Wooding had a couple of monster plays, 3 receptions, 95 yards on just 3 receptions. So, but it turned out that Louisiana did just enough to get their first victory, and so kudos to them. And hopefully for them, they're onto something.
Yeah, I believe they also Louisiana also overcame another injury to B.E. Robo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. And,
Go
ahead, Rank.
I need to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Mighty Joe Young just gifted 5 subs. Thank you, buddy.
Holy smoke! Do we have another hype train starting in the chat? This is off the
This
chain.
is level 4. So hype train goes to level 5. We completed 1 to 4.
Gotcha. We're on level 5 now. I see it. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. Who did that? You said Mighty Joe Young?
Yes.
That's Guy Clausen, right?
Guy Clausen.
Yeah.
Not only is he catching TDs,
thank you, buddy.
he's dropping subs, gentlemen.
He's dropping subs. What's up? And the Rapid Raccoon now, too. Look at Coco. Coco multitasking on the show and dropping subs. Bo Martin Jr., here's the thing. Reggie Streeter need to get on track. 98 yards, couple touchdowns is decent. I think I'm surprised as well that BDG playing at home did not have the game. We actually talked about, I believe it was on Thursday, that quarterback play and running back play would be vital in this game, and it looks like Louisiana got the better of both of those.
Yeah, and that's what happened. What ended up happening is Johnny Pickler did just enough to not ruin it. And that's a compliment. I mean, some of the greatest quarterbacks are game managers. So Johnny Pickler did just enough to not ruin it. And Reggie Streeter did just good enough to win it. He didn't have the phenomenal 180, 200-yard games that he sometimes can have, but he did just enough. He had 4.7 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. And who knows how much more he would have done if he hadn't gotten injured in the third quarter. But he did just enough, and Johnny Pickler did just enough so that the defense was able to help them out. Blake Craze had a great day with 11 tackles out of the linebacker spot, and Anthony Wayo also had a linebacker spot, had 7 tackles. So the defense did their thing, and the defense kind of carried the team this time a little bit more than we're used to than with Reggie Streeter and Johnny Pickler. But it was enough to get them back on the winning track.
Well, Jack's Data had Atlanta favored by 7.5. They obviously did not cover. Over under a 51.5 with 50 points scored in the game. You can't get much more money than that. And SFL Nation, we jump out the gate for week 4. Sorry, we took Atlanta. We jump out the gate losing. Look, I got all excited thinking we came out with a win. Overwhelmingly 159 to 42. So over 100 more votes again. This time for Atlanta in a losing cause, I should say. All right, Bo, thank you. Appreciate that. Robert Garrett Jr., moving on to game 2, Charleston at DC. This was a game, and this has another game that DC could have won. So DC's now 0-4. They could very easily be 2-2. And you had just an amazing last-second play to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. This game was just a barn burner all the way around, over 850 yards between the two teams, 7 touchdowns, both teams just on fire offensively. And a big part of that when it comes to Charleston was Keith Swearingen, total of 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 receiving. And, TD Drew held his own, 220 for 27, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. something you see very often by TD Drew. So their offense was just clicking, and DC seemed to have an answer for him, but in the end just couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah, I mean, every week it's like I feel like DC's just like right there. They're on the cusp, and then something happens, and they don't get it done. Do you think that's just a matter of they just need a little more time, a little more progression, because they have so many rookies and they're so inexperienced?
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking after the game. I got the chance to actually be on the broadcast for this one, and right at the end of the game, they had a Hail Mary pass that was caught by receiver Josh Gill, who did a lot of the work receiving for DC. And I think had he had a few more weeks progression, maybe, breakaway burst, some kind of animation, that he could have found the end zone and gotten in, tied up the game once again. But, being as young as they are, I think Charleston was able to capitalize off of that at the end.
Robert, you actually had this game on Thursday to preview. And I remember you and I talking about TD Drew and how he had to be mistake-free, even against a DC team to pull this out. And he had a fine game, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, most importantly, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely. TD Drew had perfect vision downfield, found the receivers where he needed to, and was really able to lean on guys. That big pass right at the end of the game, 70-yard bomb to Buchanan Simons to take the lead. As you said, he played a great game, and DC really couldn't stop him.
Yeah. Last thing for you. This Charleston team seemed different from last season out the gate, first 4 games, or do you think it's just all about the schedule?
Yeah, I think it partially has to do with the schedule. Charleston right now, they're one of the teams that I see the potential. I see that they can be a good team, but I don't necessarily think that they've convinced me quite yet. And, that's just, I guess, part looking back on last season, and then, little things like this where DC is a good team for, being as young as they are, but it's still DC. They still haven't gotten a win, and they have to come down to the wire as kind of a toss up there.
I think it's if nothing else, there's a moral victory there for DC. I think hanging with another good team and almost pulling out the victory. Jack's data had Charleston favored by 7.5. So you can't get much closer than that, with an over-under of 48.5 with 49 points. I mean, Jack's data is just on fire in these first 2 games. And SFL Nation, we get our first win to even things up at 1-1, 155-44. We took Charleston in the Who You Got. Moving on to a game. Let me see. Is Jeremy Vega in the chat? Is anybody seeing Jeremy in the chat? Maybe Denver's having snow and he doesn't have any power, so he doesn't. So he's not.
Wings is in the chat.
Is he in the chat? Oh, I know. He's lurking. He's waiting for this. He's been, maybe we should skip this game and wait. We'll do it at the end. I don't know, Coco. What do you think? Should we do that?
I was thinking about that 5 minutes ago.
That's what I'm saying.
In fact, Denver Nightwings got a sub tonight.
What? Jeremy? Dude, Jeremy loves
courtesy of Coco. So it's kind of
funny. Yeah. I was gonna say it's not because Jeremy loves me. I guess. It's because Coco loves me. All right. So, all right, Coco. First, let me say this. All right. I said on the show, oh, there it is, Denver Nightwings. How about them apples? I knew it. I knew you were going to come around. I said on Thursday, there's no way that Arizona covers a 10.5. Was it 10.5? Let me double check. Yep, 10.5 point spread. It was pretty close, though, Jeremy. It was only 13. He was right there, but you're right. I got to eat some crow. Denver covered. They really took it to Arizona. And, interesting, Coco, I don't really listen to a lot that Cam has to say, but I did hear him say in the recaps this weekend, which I was surprised because I thought Arizona to me just seems like a really good team. They're 1 possession away from being 0-4.
And it comes down to pretty much what we kind of saw at the tail end of last season. First of all, I'm not distorted, am I?
You were at the beginning, but you're better now.
Okay. I hate this thing. And that was just offensive troubles. And, they were able to do to Denver what Denver was able to do to them, except Denver put them in much worse field position. And when the reason why that spread wasn't so large was Eddie was basically able to stop Denver on a lot of their drives. But again, you have the foot of Kramer, and it was 3 points after 3 points after 3 points a majority of the time. But for Eddie, a lot of the times their field positioning was he'd be punting out of the end zone or the 10-yard line, and they were basically already there ready to score Denver. And that's, offensive woes are something we saw last season. Now, for Denver, it was pretty much the methodical game we typically see. It was, Chesney runs up the middle, 5-10 yards every once in a while, breaks off a decent yard. I think his long was about 43 yards. And he did have 2 rushing touchdowns on the day, but it's kind of what you expect out of him. It's kind of what you expect out of a power back with those 2 offensive linemen in front of him. And of course, it helps to have Ari Mills as well.
Of course.
Yeah. And that's it's a really hard thing for teams to solve right now is how do you battle McChesney and Josh Miller. He had a good day. I mean, he only had 1 touchdown on the day, but still his completion percentage was like 83%. And that's Eddie kept him contained, but he didn't stop him. Miller was sacked twice. So again, for Eddie's defense, they did an okay job, but they faced the same struggle that many teams face, and that was McChesney.
So Coco, let me ask you this though. The one game that Arizona won, I believe AJ had no interceptions. She had 3 more in this game. Multiple interceptions, I believe, in the other 2 losses. Is this just a case of if without those 3 interceptions, this is a totally different ball game, and maybe actually Arizona pulls this out?
No, because a lot of this game, it's you would always think that those 3 interceptions came off these huge long tosses, and in fact, these interceptions came off of crossing routes and small little slant routes. One of the interceptions was, I think they had 5 wideouts and they tried to take a shot downfield. But again, there weren't enough 4 wide plays in there that really would have advanced and pushed them down the field. So when I first saw the game, I thought that it took chances. But when I went back and looked, no, it was a really slow pace in which, Jeremy knew exactly where to play his defense, and he cut them off.
Before I get to Jack's data, last question. I said on Thursday, and I had to defend my argument because of responses in the chat when I said Denver has not been challenged. Has Denver been challenged yet?
It's kind of hard to say if Denver has been challenged, considering they are the challenge.
Right. Good answer, Coco. Well, Jack's data had 10.5, as we said before. It was close, but Denver covered. 52.5 over under. They scored 59 points. So that's within that 10-point area that we talk about. Denver in the Who You Got SFL Nation, we took them 157-42 for 2 in a row after coming out the gate with a loss. Going to game 4, LA at Florida. This was going to be a ball game. Benji, I think everybody knew it was going to be a ball game. I think a lot of people thought that LA could go into Florida and win, but Florida showed who they are, flexed a little bit, and came out with a 10-point win.
Yeah, absolutely. Great game. Back and forth action. Both teams now out as a result of this game are 3-1. So these are 2 of the better teams in the league in the top half, right? So congratulations still to Los Angeles for the fantastic start. Obviously, that's awesome. And congrats for Florida. We were chatting a little bit earlier. We were confused what Florida's record was. Who did they beat again? Who did they lose to? But Florida starting 3-1 this season. I mean, that's I would say that's an upgrade or an improvement over last year's slow start.
Well, and they lost week 1 to Lone Star, so they've won 3 in a row now.
Yeah, that's a fantastic streak. 3-1. Congrats to Florida, but this was totally back and forth affair. 14-10 at halftime. Both teams, like we had said, kind of flexing a little bit. LA on the road was able to punch the ball in for a couple touchdowns. Big rushing touchdown by Robert Johnson, who's performing well. He finished with 18 carries and a $108 in this game. So on the road, 100 yards and a touchdown, big play out of your running back. Can't ask for anything more there from Florida. Second half looked like it was momentum still swinging LA's way. They came out of the gates with another passing touchdown to go up 21-10 at that point. Florida manages a field goal, cuts it 21-13, and then I have my scores correct here. I think I do. Yes, I do. Florida scores make it 21-20. LA kicks a field goal really close at the end, but throughout the entire game, Florida was playing really solid defense. Across the board, they got more pressure on the quarterback. They had 3 sacks on the day. LA didn't have any pressure on the quarterback, no sacks, but Florida defense played great. 3 sacks on the quarterback, 6 tackles for loss, 6 passes defensed. So they're at home playing solid. Florida Storm defense. We all, no one wants to play Florida in the playoffs. Well, here they are, 3-1. They're flexing their muscles. 2 interceptions on the day. Ryan Davidson and a really tense last drive. LA driving the field, looking to go ahead and win the game on the road. They got themselves into a little bit of a pickle. Had a 3rd and 31. Game was in doubt, picked up 15 yards. That's a big 4th down. The hammer is injured. Oh no. LA is going to pick up this 1st down. They're going to go in for a touchdown here, right? They're going to win this game. Ryan Davidson makes his 2nd pick. Not only does he rip that one away from Los Angeles, but he takes it to the house. Go ahead, touchdown.
Yeah, that was the pick 6. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't tell if you were done or not. My bad. Here's the interesting thing about Florida. Florida is going to be scary if Ron Cochran throws 3 interceptions and they still win by double digits.
Absolutely. When you have a defense that can support you like that, the old adage, of course, defense wins championships. Well, maybe in the SFL, defense keeps you in games, right?
There you go. Well, and here's the thing, though, Benji. So Cochran throws 3 interceptions. The combination of Doyle and Boletsky barely rushes for 60-something, 70 yards. How did they win this game? Where'd they get all these points from? I mean, just looking at that, you would think LA would have rolled in this.
Yeah, it does look like it. It's just timely. I mean, they did turn over LA twice, right? And that defensive score at the end of the game swings things a little bit. At that point, LA was looking to go in. A touchdown would have made it 31 to Florida's 20. On paper, that would look like a stomping. You're on the road, and you put a team to bet. You put a team to bet on the road, convincing win. But you're right, Florida couldn't run well on the game, but they got a great game out of Stephen Bush. He was over 100 yards receiving, 120 yards. He was Ron Cochran's favorite target of the day, 12 for 12 and a touchdown. So it looks like Florida on offense just did what they had to do, and they were propped up by a defense that really kept LA at bay.
Well,
huge play
Jack,
at the end to win it.
Say the last thing again, Benji.
Just a huge play at the end to win it. Florida had to be ecstatic to capture that one at home.
Yeah, Mighty just pointed out the time of possession, also an extra, looks like 8 minutes or so. Jack's data had LA favored by 6 in this, which is a little shocking. And over under 54, I'm sorry, 54.5. They scored 44, so it was almost in that 10-point area we talk about. And we go 3 in a row now, SFL Nation. We took in what was the closest who you got of the week, 104-96, took Florida, going into Game 5, Bo. Mexico City at Sioux Falls. And let's just say, let's just be straight up. These two teams, I think, might be in the opposite positions that people thought they would be in at the beginning of the season. Mexico City now moving to 3-1. Sioux Falls still winless. Mexico City actually going into Sioux Falls. Now, Sioux Falls had a chance. This was a close game. I thought this might have been the one to get them over a hump, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, you know what? And if you saw this game, I'll say this game turned out to be one of the best games out of the week. I felt bad that Sioux Falls had to come out on the losing side of it, but phenomenal game. You had 924 total yards of offense. Mexico needed all 507 yards of total offense from them to just edge out Sioux Falls 41-38, right? So you really would never know that Sioux Falls was 0-3 going into this game. They played really hard. They fought their greatest. Matt Wilson on the Mexico City side, he did okay. He was 27-35. He had 354 yards, which is really good. Only one touchdown to 2 interceptions, though. He did get sacked 3 times, which may have affected that. But now, what really stuck out to me, and one of my emerging favorite running backs in the game, is Phoenix Jones. Phoenix Jones was Mr. Everything in this game. He almost single-handedly beat Sioux Falls. Phoenix Jones had 18 rushes for 157 yards, averaging almost a first down every carry, averaging 8.7 yards per carry, with 4 touchdowns on the rushing side. And if that wasn't enough, then he turned around and he had 9 receptions for another 47 yards. So they had Sioux Falls had no answer for Phoenix Jones, and that exposed some things that Sioux Falls maybe needs to work on. I know Phoenix Jones is one of the best running backs in the league, but that exposed some things for Sioux Falls that maybe they can work on to get better. Mexico City also had K.L. Barrett, who went nuts from the wide receiver spot with 6 receptions for 164 yards. I was looking for more out of Fox Highwind. They're going to have to find a way to get him more involved. Yeah. He only touched the ball 1 time. It was a great reception for 21 yards, but he only touched the ball 1 time in the entire game. And then on the flip side for Sioux Falls, just some things for them perhaps that they need to get a little bit better at. And I know they're still working with Julian Tyree to try to mold him at the quarterback position to where they want to be. But he had only 15 completions, 15 for 23 with 210 yards. Again, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Now he was only sacked twice, so his protection was okay. Colin Hart, you can't say anything bad about Colin Hart.
He finally had the game that we talked about on Thursday. He needed to have,
He had the game we all thought he should have in order for Sioux Falls to have a chance to win. The only problem is Julian Tyree didn't hold up his end of the bargain. Sioux Falls was right there. They were literally a couple of plays away. You had A.J. Warren go nuts for over 100 yards, 115 yards total, and then from the defensive side, and this is one thing I saw too, looking at Sioux Falls' numbers. It's always said that you never want your free safeties to be your leading tackler. Yeah. And the Jay Ringgold had 12 total tackles, 7 tackles and 5 assists. And then the cornerback right behind him with 8 tackles. And then the numbers trailed off from there. So what that tells you is that secondary had to work way too hard. So that also shows maybe perhaps there's some deficiencies in their defensive front that Sioux Falls can perhaps work on to shore that up a little bit. Overall, it was a phenomenal game to watch. And I'm sure Sioux Falls will get back on track. It seems like they're already heading in the right direction. They just need to get a little bit more out of Julian Tyree.
350 yards and 7 touchdowns between the 2 running backs is just insane and fun to watch. Jack's data. Oh, by the way, and last thing too, we've been saying that about Fox Highwind now for a few weeks. Mexico City, I mean, they're 3-1 and they're winning, but imagine how much better they can be if they start getting Fox involved in the game. Jack's data had Mexico City favored by 7.5, so they did not cover. Over under a 41.5, which was completely blown out. I mean, Mexico City covered that themselves. And a 4-game winning streak, SFL Nation, 112-85, taking Mexico City going into the nightcap game on Saturday, Robert. Queen City at Tulsa. Is this the surprise or upset of the week?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the games you could consider for it. I mean, if you were to just look at team stats, outside of, third down percentage, it looks like on paper Queen City should have, handled this game. About 4 minutes more time of possession, 44 more yards passing, 20 yards more rushing. But I mean, the outlier here is the third down percentage, 23% on third downs for Queen City. And even worse than that, AJ Caswell, 56.4% completion rating for 5 interceptions. And as a veteran quarterback in the league, that is just unacceptable.
quarterback play, we talked about it on Thursday, would be vital. We know Caswell, usually a very good game manager, but does have these games where he throws a lot of interceptions. JQ did just enough, kind of like Julian Tyree last game, right? JQ, 200 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But is that the reason why Tulsa won, or is there another reason?
I think another big reason that Tulsa won is the Queen City defense just could not get to JQ. David Tilley had 1.5 sacks. Kappa Jones had a half a sack. But other than that, none of that defensive line could get into the backfield, could get the pressure on JQ. And I think Tulsa was really able to capitalize off of that.
Sanzo with 2 rushing touchdowns. That was good. I think we talked about him on Thursday as well. But on the Queen City side, Jet 0, I mean, same thing, or almost about 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. So the ground game was pretty even. And we talked about this being a game of different styles, just like Queen City's last game, right? Grinded out Queen City versus a Tulsa offense that really likes to throw downfield, Gabriel Manning and all those guys. And it looks like Tulsa's style of play won out this time.
Yeah, Tulsa's kind of still trying to find their image, but I think this game is a good little push for them so that they have a little bit more film to work off of and figure out what works for their offense.
Yeah. So congrats to Tulsa on their first win. And, Robert, and this is actually just for everybody, as I'm looking over the scores from this weekend, Louisiana hadn't won a game. They beat Atlanta. DC hadn't won a game. They almost beat Charleston. Tulsa gets their first victory. Portland got theirs last week. And London almost upsets Baltimore. Are we just seeing now, is there just that much more parity in this league that there's not that much difference between Denver's, I think, head and shoulders of everybody, say number 2 and number 24?
Yeah, I think that there's a much more even playing field this season. And I also got to wonder if with some of these teams, maybe the coaches are, underpreparing. Oh, this team's 0-3. They're not figuring anything out, so we're just going to run all over them, and they're not too worried about it. I don't know that that's the case, but it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. Oh, my bad, Bob Funk. You're right. Week 2 that you got your first win. Well, Jack's data had Queen City favored by 3.5. They did not cover. Over under a 44.5. They eclipsed that by 13 points, scoring 57 in the game. And SFL Nation ends up on Saturday the same way they started out, with a loss. But to go 4-2 isn't too shabby, as they picked Queen City 165-32 to win that game. So 4-2 on the first day, not terrible. Get ready to go to Gunny here right now before we move on to Sunday's games. I did want to make a quick note while we're waiting for Gunny, is that on Tuesday nights we normally have a session, a quick minute with Tyler Falk doing his Next on Netma. I don't know if you guys saw in his server, he does not have a show tomorrow, so there will be no Next on Netma tonight. He pushed his show back to this Friday from Wednesday, so just a little FYI there. Gunny, you around?
Yes, I'm getting in position, 45 degrees, with my feet standing straight.
On the yellow foot,
shoulders back.
Thumbs along your crease of your pants?
There, you got it.
Well, Ray's already on the ball. She's got
that's why I got in my position.
Awesome. All right, Gunny, you're good to go.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's safe from all the weather. All we've been getting in Atlanta is a whole bunch of rain and just cold. But everything is safe here, but we do hope everyone is safe where you are. Some stats through the first quarter of the season. Points per game. The leaders, Vancouver, with 35.5. The Los Angeles Lakers are in second with 33. Passing per game, the leaders, Vancouver, with 358. Houston is in second. Rushing per yards, 163. Denver. Second place is Mexico City. Total yards so far this season through 4 games, with 849 is Vancouver. Again, Houston Hyenas is in second. Yards per game, 462.3. Vancouver Legion. Houston also in second. Passing TDs, 11. Vancouver tied for second. is Las Vegas and Los Angeles with 10. Rushing TDs is 8. That's Mexico City. In second place is Denver with 7. Third down conversion, 69%, is Vancouver. At second place is Jacksonville with 62%. Turnovers, the least amount of turnovers with 3 is Denver. Second place with the least amount of turnovers is San Diego Mavericks. Takeaways, 4 teams are tied at the top with 14. That is Fort Worth, Baltimore, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Turnover differential with a +9 is Fort Worth, and Baltimore is in second with 6. Also, through 4 games, the best division records right now is the South Division, with Fort Worth leading the way with Mexico City at 3-1 with a 10-6 record, and also the Atlantic is also 10-6 with Charleston and Florida leading the way, also all at 3-1 records. And with that, Dave, that is it for this week. Again, everyone stay safe, warm, and all that good stuff, and that is all.
All right, Gunny, thank you so much for that. Appreciate all the details, all the stats, all the info, and all the wisdom you bring to us. Appreciate it. Moving into Sunday's games. Of course, my favorite game of the week kicked things off on Sunday. Coco, here's the thing. Lone Star looked a lot like they did in week 1. Definitely not the way they looked in week 2 and 3. But going to the point that I asked Robert right before we talked to Gunny about the parity in this league, right? So we beat Jacksonville, Florida beat Jacksonville, Florida beat Carolina, but Carolina beats us. I mean, are there any for sure wins in this league anymore at all?
No, and there's definitely certain types of teams that are able to, just match up better against other teams, and that's just what we're going to see as the season progresses.
So this game in particular, 2 throwing teams, 7 interceptions, I believe, combined. Tell me how Lone Star was able to pretty much, I don't want to use the word dominate, but I think the fact that our defense was able to hold Jacksonville to mostly field goals to the end of the game was the difference in the game.
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that any team that has Greg Soto it's going to come out ahead at this point in the season.
Except in soccer.
Yeah. Not next week. And so it's funny because when you watch this game, it was really defined, I felt like, in the first half, which I wouldn't typically say because it was still a close game. But I wouldn't say, yeah, but it was a little bit of luck. But there was certain things that happened, like Soto catches a ball out of bounds, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh, man, it's 3rd and 10. This is where their Lone Star is going to have problems. And then all of a sudden, boom, Ace goes deep to Soto. I forget what that play was. It must have been the 70-yarder.
70. I think he had a couple that were in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is Lone Star. It's funny because you look at your guys' rushing yards, and it's not typically something that we see. I mean, Collier had 2 carries for 7 yards, and Ike had 12 carries for 40 yards, but the ball was spread around. I mean, Soto had his 2 touchdowns. Williams had a touchdown. And you had a friggin' touchdown for 46 yards.
Don't forget that one, baby. So, I was already getting ready to correct you if you missed that.
I'm trying to remember if that was in the first quarter. Was that in the first?
It was early. It was definitely in the first half.
Yeah, because I was like, we could just skip that first quarter of the game and just go.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But and that was pretty much it. And as the half ended, Coach already had an interception at that point, and I don't want to just talk about Lone Star, but it was in the snow, and then that tip deflection to Lacey in the end zone.
And
I was like, this is just gonna go LSG's way. And it's when we did our pick'ems this week, it was funny because like I picked Lone Star and I picked St. Louis, and Vancouver and Jacksonville are very much the same, where it's nothing against St. Louis and nothing against Lone Star, but there's just certain games where they just play like crap.
Mm-hmm.
They were both snow games, and I kind of know what happened, but their opponents just didn't look representative to what they had looked in prior games to that. I mean, we could talk about what's a plus for Jacksonville here.
Well, a couple things. They sacked Ace twice. They picked him off 3 times. But here's the thing, right? CC throws 4 interceptions. A lot of times, if CC throws 4 interceptions, Jacksonville's not going to win anyway. But combined with the fact that Jared Willis only rushed for 43 yards after having a couple monster games this season already,
which was impressive because they were still a lot of runs just straight up the middle, but they would only go for 4 or 5 yards, where typically he would break off a monster. And is that due to the snow? Possibly. But again, you're looking at a game where Christian had 4 interceptions and Ace had 3. I mean, it was pretty balanced. They're both of their completion percentages were in the 60s. And it was just a fact that when Lone Star needed to get that long catch, they were able to do it. Jacksonville had a few darts here and there, but it just was nowhere. Yeah, actually, I see it right now. Ken Gossett had the longest reception of 23 yards, which is nowhere near the darts that you guys had on post routes.
Right.
And that was the major factor, was that you guys were able to hit those when you needed them to.
Well, and I believe Jack Wall was in the game chat that whole game, and him and I were talking back and forth about how many times Jacksonville had to settle for field goals. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jack didn't even get his touchdown till late in the fourth quarter anyway. So it was a lot of field goals for Jacksonville, and I think that was the difference in the game. I think our defense was the difference, obviously combined with 3 long bomb touchdowns that we were fortunate enough to get. I don't think anybody saw this game going that way, Coco. I'm guessing you didn't.
Actually, no. I picked LSG in regards to not even looking at the spread. Jacksonville was due, much like Vancouver was due. It happens every season. We do this. We have a game where it's like, what is going on, And I'm really happy for Charles that he finally figured it out. I knew he had it in him.
All right, attaboy, Charles. Well, Jack's data had themselves favored by 3.5 with an over-under of only 45.5, which we blew out of the water. And just like Saturday, SFL Nation, we start Sunday off with a loss. Jacksonville 131-63, going into game 2, which, Benji, this is probably the game of the week. Normally, we don't allow people to talk about their own game, but since you're a last second fill-in, it is what it is. What a game you guys had. What an upset you guys almost had. Tell me about that game. I mean, that's a perfect game for you to do as a last minute fill-in since you lived it.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. I don't know if anyone else saw it, or if you did see it. It was a tremendous game. On the London side of things, it stinks to lose a game in the SFL, but we were actually really happy with the result. We're happy with the team. Great outing. All in all, I think that anytime you go on the road to play the world champs, you're going to be up for, it's a tall task, right? Anytime you play on the road to begin with. But this
Absolutely.
is the Baltimore Vultures. They're always prepared. Great game planning all the time, and they had a week of tape on us, a week of tape that saw Angus McLean throwing his brains out in week 3. Fantastic game. So they had a good week of prep, and they're a great team. They're the champs for a reason. So this was a fantastic game. We had it circled on our calendar, of course. Mr. General Manager Chad Rowland returned home to play his old squad, and JT Delaney, our punters from Baltimore. So we were all really super excited about that. So I don't know how Baltimore feels about the game. I know we in London feel like we are arriving. So I hope that Baltimore, when they're talking about this after the game, says, you know what, that's a great London team. We were lucky to come away with this win because they are an improved ball club. They did all the things that mattered at the end to win the game. Baltimore roared out to a fast lead, and it looked like London was in for a long one. 20-10 at the end of the first half, and it could have been much worse. It was 20-3. Baltimore had the lead. They're getting everything they want on offense. London can't do anything on offense. So the Baltimore D is playing really well. And then London went on a 12-play, 80-yard drive, threw a touchdown pass to a tight end. It was beautiful in the end zone. And just like that, cutting that 20-10 gave London a little bit of life. They got the ball.
Who was that tight end?
His name escapes me at the moment, but he's a real good looking, really made a real great athletic play in the end zone. So, and London really needed that, and it was a great drive, and they hadn't had any success up until that point, really. So to go in 20-10, London, we actually kind of felt like we had life because we got the ball back to start the second half. So in the locker room, we were talking about, man, if we can just turn it around, if our defense can kind of start playing, who knows what can happen in the second half. London goes on a great 10-play, 79-yard drive, another passing touchdown. It narrows it to 17-20. Right off the bat, we're right back in it. It's a ball game again. 3 interceptions on the next 3 drives in a row, trading possessions. London gets a field goal to make it 20-20. And the scoring really kind of halted in that second half. Both defenses are really stepping up. We were nervous in the London locker room. I don't know how Baltimore felt, but it was just back and forth. And the defenses started playing those 3 interceptions in a row, back to back to back, separated, then a London field goal, and then 4 punts back to back to back to back. The game was winding down. London had 2 opportunities with the ball in their hand, tie game with less than, I believe, 4 or 5 minutes on the clock. So London had multiple opportunities to drive the field and put in a go-ahead field goal or a touchdown, and we couldn't do it. So kudos to the Baltimore defense stepping up when they had to make plays. They did. And then the last drive of the game, Baltimore, 66 yards, accumulates, whatever it is I'm trying to say, and it's too cold, in a T-Roy, fantastic run to the left off tackle, just a 13-yard rush. They were trying to run the clock out that point, but they punch it in for the 27-20 victory. Baltimore gets all the kudos in this one. It was actually a really tight game. We thought we played well. I hope London or hope Baltimore feels like we gave them a real good game and that we made life difficult for them. Jack Wigmore had a solid game, completed 70% of his passes, had 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, did 3 interceptions, which kind of maybe got them off track a little bit. I know there were some moments in the game when in chat, if you're following along, where Baltimore was kind of scratching their heads at some of the play calling. Like they had an opportunity to run the ball out, but no one was getting anything on the ground, London or Baltimore, up to that point, really. So they were putting the ball in Jack Wigmore's hand to try and distribute that ball around, and he did. He got all his receivers involved. Every receiver on Baltimore caught a pass. No one totally stood out. No one had over 55 yards receiving in the game, but yet all the receivers were involved. So Jack Wigmore doing what he does, gets everyone the ball. They really limit, again, Robert Merrill on the ground. If you're going to be honest, if you're looking at London, yes, Angus had an incredible game in week 3, but how are you going to stop London? You know, Baltimore probably saw the tape, Robert Merrill, the focus of the game. Robert got 16 carries on the ground, could only get 25 yards.
Yeah.
And he's heavily involved in the passing game again. Well, 8 receptions, which is kind of low for him. He leads the league in receptions, or he did going into week 4. So 8 receptions, and Baltimore held him to only 23 yards. So less than 50 combined yards for Robert Merrill in the air, on the ground. The Baltimore defense did what it had to do in a well-played game. It was excellent to be a part of. And they win 27-20 to move to 3-1 on the season.
Yeah, T-Roy, I think he had over 100 yards rushing, touchdown. Yep. But you know, the rumors that were flying around about how upset he was after losing to Baltimore the week before, I can't even imagine how things would have been if they had lost to you guys this weekend. Jack's data had Baltimore favored by 3.5, which, I mean, it was close, 7 points. And with an over-under of 45.5, and you guys scored 47 in the game, which is right on. And back in the win column for SFL Nation to go 1-1 out the gate on Sunday, 162-37. They took Baltimore, but I'll tell you what, the Huey got. I bet a lot of people were sweating out that game. Moving on to Vancouver at St. Louis, which we called would probably be the game of the weekend, Bo. And you tell me, was it the game of the weekend?
No, it was a good game, but it wasn't the game of the week. And of course, why wouldn't it be billed as the game of the week? You've got 2 of the undefeated teams at 3-0 going in to battle each other. So I mean, you would think it would be the game of the week. It was, in my opinion, a little bit lopsided St. Louis's way. And what's really weird, with Vancouver, you would think Vancouver had never played in the snow before. Sorry, Coco, I know you're listening here, but you would think Vancouver had never played in the snow before. They had a real difficulty with a lot of their route runnings. They just seemed like they were inconsistent in certain plays. Tom Pepper, let's focus on Tom for a minute. He's one of the more veteran quarterbacks in the league. However, Tom was 28 for 51. Okay. Yeah. His passing, that's a 54% completion rate. He did have 397 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was only sacked 1 time. Okay. So you would think if you're throwing the ball that much and you're only sacked 1 time, you'd come out on top. However, like I said, with him only completing 28 out of those 51, there were a lot of incompletions, and he did have 1 long bomb to Dan Daly for 58 yards. So that even lowers his percentage even more if you subtract those passes. It's not like he was throwing bombs. Dan Daly went 3 for 88. Kendra Hall did pretty well, 7 completions for 73 yards. And Andy Hamilton came through, averaging 17.5 yards a catch, with 7 completions for 122 yards. So Vancouver, what happened, and as far as Robert Redford go, the numbers were okay. He did average 4.2 yards per carry. Not as typical of what we're used to seeing from Robert Redford, but not horrible. But again, just not as good as we're used to seeing. So what it came down, looking at this game, what it came down to me is this: which quarterback played and made less mistakes? Okay, because looking at on the St. Louis side of the ball, it's not like Cairo Martinez went off and had some kind of crazy day. Cairo he was 26 rushes for 78 yards himself. So Robert Redford and Cairo had a comparable day. But so what it came down to is, and then Eagle Mondavi is from the receiving end, and Paul Delavu. Eagle had 8 for 90, and Paul Delavu had 9 for 87. But what it came down to, it goes back to the quarterback play. And I was a little bit surprised that Christian Brown flat out outplayed Tom Pepper. Christian Brown dialed in his inner Angus McLean. He only had 3 incompletions the entire game this week. I know Angus had that last week. Christian only had 3 incompletions the entire game. He was 28 for 31 for over a 90% completion rate. Not only that, St. Louis's offensive line kept Christian clean. They never sacked him. He had 0 sacks on the game, which means Christian had time to, and those 2 numbers a lot of times go hand in hand. If your offensive line can keep you clean like that, you've got time to sit back in the pocket and just pick that defense apart. And that's what Christian had the opportunity to do. So, St. Louis looked like the 4-0 team, and they played like it. And I got to be honest, I think it's time to start giving St. Louis a little bit of respect. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say the play of Christian Brown, back-to-back weeks, taking out 2 veteran quarterbacks on 2 teams, one that we thought was going to be really good and one that is really good, is extremely impressive for a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I meant when I said it's time to start giving St. Louis a little bit of respect, because Christian Brown outplayed one of the best veterans we have in the game, and he flat out outplayed him. And of course, we know there's 2 sides to the ball, but Christian is doing a great job of taking care of the ball, and we'll talk more about that when we a little bit later on in the show. But phenomenal game by Christian Brown, and if St. Louis keeps playing the way that they are, they're going to be a top contender.
Yeah, St. Louis.
One other thing too. I just want to speak briefly on the defensive side of the ball too, because I gave all this love to the offensive side of the ball, but we don't want to forget about the defense. Gerard Winkler and Colin Douglas back in that defensive backfield were all over the place. You had Colin Douglas with 13 total pass defenses, and then Winkler had another 6. So they really were protecting that defense side of the ball. And when you've got the offense clicking like that, and then the defense doing what they're doing, they're going to be tough to beat.
St. Louis should be on every week. Every day. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're not biased though. That's the thing. Here's the thing. St. Louis, I think the majority of the league is happy for St. Louis, right? With the issues they've had in the past, the quarterback not sticking around, all that. The fact that they are one of only 2 teams left undefeated a third of the way through the season, has to be not only feel amazing for St. Louis, but put the rest of the league on alert that they're for real.
Yeah, absolutely. I am officially ready to declare they're for real. I know I apologize to St. Louis for doubting you for the first 4 weeks of the season. Don't let me down. Don't let me down now that I'm hopping on the train, St. Louis. You are for real. So that means you guys got to perform the rest of the way.
There you go. Vancouver was favored by 3.5 by Jack's data, over under a 51.5, which was pretty close with the 55 points scored in the game. But 133 to 60, SFL Nation took Vancouver over St. Louis. So they dropped to 1-2 halfway through the Sunday games, moving into San Diego at Carolina. This Robert Garrett Jr., this game was kind of interesting to me. I just kind of felt at some point I was waiting for San Diego to just get it going and steal a victory from Carolina, and it just didn't develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the first quarter and even kind of into the third quarter, San Diego made this look like a ball game.
Yeah,
kept Carolina off the scoreboard in the first quarter completely, and then was able to get back to within one score in the third. But Logan Jack just had a heyday against this San Diego defense, able to put up 188 rushing yards and break some big time career milestones. And really the other big thing for Carolina is, when's the last time you've seen Xander Gold play as well as he did in this game? Didn't get a touchdown on the board, but also didn't throw an interception. 19 for 25. Just played great for Carolina and really commanded that offense.
Well, this game had two quarterbacks that have not been playing well this season, so it was borderline a recipe for disaster on both sides. Like you said, Xander, no touchdowns but no interceptions. Javier Vasquez still struggling, but more importantly, and we talked about this on Thursday, so give me your feedback on this, Robert. Still nothing Optimus Klein. One catch for 4 yards.
Yeah, I had to go back and look, at signings and things just to make sure that I didn't miss, and maybe they had signed McMichaels as tight end 1, but, looking back, they had signed Optimus with 84 as his value, and for a tight end that's extremely high, and for him to not be utilized in the offense, as he has so far this season, is just a really bad thing for San Diego all around. They were able to get Jalen Wells going finally, 23 for 166, finally got his touchdown. But outside of that, they really didn't get a whole lot going.
Yeah, Logan Jack tore it up for Carolina, like you said. Harish had a decent game. I'm trying to find the other receivers. Hold on. Yeah, that was about it, I think. When you look at Xander throwing no touchdowns, but yet they still scored almost 30 points in the game. 14 of those from Logan Jack. Where'd they get the rest of them, Robert?
They were able to get it done on defense. A big pick six came up, and Carolina was able to take a chance. Davidson Joseph, 42 yards, interception return. Carolina's defense played really well up against a young quarterback in Javier Vasquez.
Yeah, they're going to have to get Javier straight there. And, we talked about this before, too, on this show with other rookie quarterbacks. Tight end is a pretty important receiver for a rookie quarterback, right, as their outlet. They got to figure out how to get Optimus into these games. But Carolina, though, I mean, they jumped to 2-2. San Diego's still looking for their first win. This was one of the games that I thought where the team that hadn't had a win yet might have had a chance to win. Obviously wasn't the case. Jack's data had Carolina favored by 7.5, so over a touchdown with an over under a 47.5 with 46 points scored. That's they nailed it right there. What do you think? You think San Diego's going to get their next win pretty soon, Robert, or their first win pretty soon? I mean,
I'd have to take a look at their schedule. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I think they're slowly getting things figured out how to get their offense going. Once they get the ball to Optimus Klein, I think that it's going to be a whole new dimension for their offense, and hopefully at that point their first win will be on the board. Not too long after.
They host Portland next week, so there's potential there maybe.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Portland's an extremely tough team. I don't think I know Prococo is about to talk about that game, but I don't think the scoreboard at the end really showed how well that Portland played. I'll be interested to see how that game pans out.
Well, let's go to Coco now and find out, since I already said the Jack's data. No, I didn't. I didn't finish it. Sorry. I did the score. I did the spread and the over-under. I forgot to do the who you got. We're back in the win column, 162-37, SFL Nation. We took Carolina to even things up at 2-2 through 4 games. Now the 5th game, Coco. Fort Worth at Portland. Fort Worth is looking pretty tough, and can we put the same label on them that we put on St. Louis, that Fort Worth is for real?
I mean, there's going to be some nepotism here. So I was actually surprised you gave me this assignment. Yeah, I can. It's when you watch Fort Worth, there's they run a lot of course, they have the 2 tight end set. And it's, I actually said this to everyone's favorite Andy. It's amazing when you watch them that they would be the better passing team this far into the season, running the same setup as Atlanta. And it could be a little bit scheduled, but again, they're really consistent. It's really clean. They get sets out of that formation that most other teams are just not able to at this point, and it's really fun to watch.
I mean, a 20-point victory on the road. Yes, Portland is in the lower part of the power rankings, but it's a 20-point road win nonetheless. Cam Curtis, one of our favorite people here at the show. By the way, speaking of Cam Curtis, I got this note right here because I forgot to mention he also gifted a bunch of subs the other night and was putting stats in the chat for us as we were talking about things. So I wanted to make a note about that. I saw that when I went back to listen to the show. So Cam Curtis, thank you for that. Cam Curtis, not a terrible game, Coco. 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but Thrilliams, doing what Thrilliams does, right? 141 yards and a touchdown.
And actually, here's something. I just want to go back real quick because I didn't mention Bo. Good job on that interception, by the way, because we didn't mention that. And I know Winkler is in love with that sweatshirt that you're wearing right now. But I forgot to mention the Bo actually in the pregame show. James Walters had a touchdown, and Walters for Vancouver is 3 receptions, 33 yards in 16 games as a tight end too.
Yeah,
my wife has 5 completions for 23 yards and a touchdown in this one game alone. Okay,
I knew this was coming, by the way, and then you wonder why I gave you this game.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna mention anyone else on that team who's a tight end who's selfless and just an amazing man for everything he's done. But going back to what you talked about, yeah, I mean, the thing is, Cameron Curtis, you look at his completion percentage, it was 68.75. But again, what about that Portland defense, Art? What about that Portland defense? Art got kind of stuck in the same. It's not the mentality that we had, but a couple things were missed. They got beaten underneath a lot. And also from playing Vancouver, I just know he brought a lot of pressure, and I think he tried to bring a lot of that pressure again, just to force turnovers, which, I mean, he did get 2 interceptions and 3 sacks off for Cameron Curtis. But again, this is Portland's defense trying to kind of force field position in which Portland, I just, it's killing me because you look at, like, they had 17 points. Yeah. And I don't even remember them scoring 17 points because
I think they scored 5 last week, right?
I don't remember when they came, and I apologize, Portland. And the sad thing is they try to play safe. They try to play short yardage downs, but when the AI forces them to make the long pass, it completes it. They don't want to throw it, but when the AI is trying to show you what you can do when you throw the ball and you complete it, you should just take chances at this point. Right. With this record is when you just go ahead, take chances.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? I mean, they took some chances. Matt South threw the ball 52 times, so it's not like they didn't have opportunity. I mean, they took their chances. I guess they just didn't capitalize on them. But he only completed 30 of those 52, and he threw 3 picks.
Yeah, but again, they're just not quality throws. It's just not. It's the kind of plays that give Craven, the sweats, which I mean, everything gives Craven the sweats. But again, you can just see him perspiring as a 5-wide set comes out there. Like, he's dying inside. And it's things like that you sneak into the playbook that just don't come out on third and long, that may come out there maybe on a second down play, that you can get a completion on. And again, Fort Worth, real. Portland, I don't know what to say. A lot of work needs to be done.
They still need a lot of work. Unfortunately, one of Gunny's picks for hopefully Diva of the Week this week, Ezekiel Love, because of Valentine's Day that he mentioned in his Pearls of Wisdom last week. Only 29 rushing yards, but he did receive 10 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Not necessarily Diva-ish, but at least he was catching the ball well. Jack's data had this game Fort Worth favored by only 4, which was also a little surprising. Maybe because it was a road game. I don't know. Over under of only 35.5, and they blew that out of the water. SFL Nation stays in the win column to go 3-2 on Sunday with 1 game left. 133-69 in favor of Fort Worth heading into the final game of the weekend. Benji, Houston at Las Vegas. This was a great game. I think it's a little bit of a head turner. We've talked several times on this show about Las Vegas potentially having the best home field advantage in the SFL, but that did not seem to help them this weekend.
Yeah. No, I'm not muted, bro.
Oh, okay.
I was just choosing my words carefully here.
Okay.
No. This was an interesting game. I think it's really interesting as we look at these teams now after this game. These two teams came in, moving in different. The needle was swinging in different directions for Houston and Las Vegas. And now after weeks 3 and 4, the momentum is switched completely.
Right.
Houston now winners of 2 in a row. Las Vegas losers of 2 in a row. And Las Vegas losing this at home. It's tough, of course, but I don't think it's anything to hang their heads at here. One thing I've noticed in the SFL so far this season is that we still don't know. We still don't know for certain who the majority of these teams are in this league. I mean, we're now finally in week 4, only now on the St. Louis bandwagon because they're 4-0. But it's like we're just feeling each other out in this league so far. We're 4 weeks into it, and this game, I thought, did Las Vegas go into this one thinking this was in the bag at home? They did lose in week 3, but playing Houston at home, a lot of people have been kind of scratching their heads about Houston this year. But looking at this game, back and forth, some good defense, a whole lot of offense, some turnovers. But look at some of these numbers here. Houston comes in right off the bat, and really, in hindsight, did you have any doubt what the game was going to be like when on the first drive of the game, DR Sim goes for 63 yards and a big touchdown, 7-zip. Houston's first touch of the game after getting the ball back from Vegas by a punt. 4 downs, Houston scores. They're up 7-zip. They had another touchdown, another 35-yard touchdown pass. It's 14-zip right off the bat. Las Vegas at home, maybe starting to hit the panic button already. What are we doing? We're losing to Houston. We're down 14. Let's get this in gear. Doug Britton, congrats on that touchdown, kick return.
Kick return.
Right after that second touchdown, Doug Britton gives Vegas some life, 14-7. They kind of go back and forth that second half. They go into halftime at 20 apiece, and then things slow down in the second half. Las Vegas puts some points on the board first. It is 30-27. Vegas is back in front. They've come back. They're starting to feel good. And then Houston with a two-play drive, and a two-play 83-yard drive, and who starts that one out? But DR Sim going for 69 yards, and then Warren Murray cleaning up on a 14-yard touchdown pass there, 34-30 in the second half. And after that, it's just punt, punt, punt. 4 interceptions get thrown, and the game ends without any more scoring across the last 8 drives of the game. So kind of anticlimactic. And I thought maybe Vegas feels like we're going to get this ball back and we're going to score. We're Las Vegas. We're going to be able to move this down the field with our star on offense, and we're going to be able to recapture this league. And it just didn't work out for them. Vegas throws 2 interceptions. They have to punt twice after that Houston touchdown to put them up 34-30. Now, looking at some of these numbers, Vegas did a good job at home against Warren Murray, one of the best backs in the entire SFL. 17 carries for Warren Murray for only 47 yards, 9 receptions for a total of 11 yards.
Yeah.
When his longest reception was the touchdown, the last touchdown to go ahead, and that was a 14-yarder. So literally, he averaged a yard per reception.
Yeah, on swing passes, probably. Yeah.
On swing passes. And then for Houston, they just put all sorts of pressure on Vegas right out of the gate with DR Sim and his monstrous game. I guess we should mention, of course, who's making this all possible from the captain spot there. E.T. King, because Warren Murray and Houston couldn't get anything done on the ground, he's lighting it up. Completes 76% of his passes.
Yeah.
He has to throw 55 of them, but completes 42 for 560 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is quite the ball game. Of course, there's a little flag there. He did throw 4 interceptions. Both quarterbacks tossed 4 interceptions, but E.T. King, because nothing was happening on the ground, aired it out and getting big play after big play by DR Sim. He ruled in 12 balls, DR did, and only 3 of them, I believe, were under like 15 yards. He moved the chains himself like 9 times in this game. So E.T. King was dealing, but he had some great receivers. Kyle Finnemore picked up 6 receptions. Leroy Brown had 10 for 116 himself. All this love, 42 completions. I got to mention the tight ends here. Randy Pierce, Stephen Walker, if you guys are listening, you got to talk to Coach about this one. 2 receptions for 19 yards, 3 receptions for 24 yards when E.T. King is dealing out 42 completions. Yeah. Get the tight end some love there in Houston.
Absolutely.
But they had a great game on offense, really put the pressure on Las Vegas, and Vegas just couldn't put it together. 4 interceptions by Colin Pierce. He himself has to throw the ball 40 times, only completes 52% of them, only 2 touchdowns. Scott Johnson can't get anything started on the ground either, so Houston's playing great rush defense there, 11 carries for 26 yards. And then Vegas in the air had some success. John Blades, outside of 171-yard touchdown bomb.
Yep.
Vegas receivers are really limited. So Houston, I would say, plays a fantastic game all across the board, played some good defense on the road, kept Las Vegas off balance, and then some big plays on offense in the passing game, and Houston just kept Las Vegas at arm's length in this game. 902 total yards. Houston themselves, over 600 total yards in this game. 26 minutes of possession. It's almost 10 more minutes than Las Vegas had in this game. So I think a lot of stats in this one, but when it's all said and done, Houston played well. They're a dangerous team, winning on the road in Las Vegas, who has this home field advantage. Houston back to 2-2, won 2 in a row. Now we're back to talking about the Hyenas being a darn good team who now obviously can go in and win anywhere. So,
yeah, I think there's actually a few misprints, I think, on this graphic. I think we grabbed the stats maybe from a wrong game, but final score was 34-27. But a couple key notes too. DR Sim gets his 100th and 101st touchdown, career touchdown. So congrats to DR Sim. And those rookie corners for Houston, the long arm of the law and Marco Swift, each with another interception this week. So those corners are doing outstanding in Houston. Jack's data had Las Vegas favored by 10.5. Obviously, Houston did not cover. With 61 points scored in the game, though, they blew away the 45.5 over-under. set by Jack's Data. And SFL Nation, we end on a losing streak. We took Las Vegas 151-47 to go only 3-3 on Sunday and 7-5 overall for the week. So for the weekend. So not great, not as good as we've done. By the way, SFL Nation, I wrote down a few things. We are now through 4 weeks, so a third of the season, 30-18, so 60% win percentage for SFL Nation in the Who You Got. All right, let's move on to Diva of the Week. And let's knock these out. I don't know where to go for. I guess, Bo, I got to change my notes around since we've had so many changes of people here. All right, Bo Martin Jr., you're up first. So who is your Week 4, Season 16 Diva of the Week nominee?
All right, so mine probably won't come as much of a surprise considering I fawned over this guy when we were talking about the win. He had a phenomenal game, so it was really hard for me to pinpoint one particular pass or one particular play that he was involved in because he executed pretty much from bell to bell. So there's not really much else for me to say. My Diva of the Week is Christian Brown. CB12.
Oh, back-to-back weeks for that guy. Nice. Okay. All right, Robert Garrett Jr., on to you. Who is your Week 4, Season 16 Diva of the Week nominee?
My Diva of the Week nominee for Week 4 is the man who single-handedly put the silver bullet into the LA Lycans at the end of the game, Ryan Davidson, with the 78-yard pick six to end off the game. Just a great play when their defense overall was playing very well in that game.
Nice. All right. Coco, you're next. Who's your Season 16 Week 3 Diva of the Week nominee?
I'm going to go with the always favorite generic here because everybody loves to vote for them.
That's true. That's actually true.
Let's give you a diva moment for once instead of an entire game. Thank you, Robert, by the way.
Imagine that.
So for Louisiana, Atlanta, sorry, Swole. Pickler throws an interception, starts to run it back. And who else but the backup running back, because Streeter is injured, but Nathan Smith, who is named after Gerald's son, then forces a fumble. And then on a play right after that, he runs for like 34 yards and pretty much solidifies the game for them there in the third/fourth quarter.
Got it. That was actually a great play to watch. Let me see, Benji. I gotta cross out all these names of people who were supposed to be here. Benji, who is your Week 4, Season 16 Diva of the Week nominee?
He's here in chat.
What?
Don't look now. But the Houston Hyenas are 2-2. They caught some flack earlier in the season, slow start. But who has got this team firing now on all cylinders? None other than their fearless leader, their owner, DR Sim. 12 receptions, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns in a statement performance by Houston, making a statement on the road, bringing the team to 2-2. They're playing well. My Diva of the Week nod goes to DR Sim.
Yeah, 100th and 101st career touchdown.
Yes.
That's definitely about as diva-ish as
Absolutely.
you can get. All right. Gunny, are you around?
I am.
Gunny, who is your Season 16 Week 4 Diva of the Week nominee?
I would like to thank Robert for bringing up this idea to me, and also I'd like to thank Tim Hackett for the broadcasting information about this. My Divas of the Week is backup quarterback Jason Russell and backup wide receiver Mike Caker. These generics are the deceased brother of Delaney Nash, the quarterback, and the wide receiver is the deceased uncle of Stephen Hacker. With 1 minute and 24 seconds left in the fourth quarter, these two gentlemen connected on an 8-yard touchdown pass, and these two gentlemen, being that I also play for my father in the memory of my own dad, these are why I picked these generics to be my Diva of the Week.
That's awesome, Gunny. That was great. Those are great picks. Eagle's not with us right now because, as many of you may know and some may not know, He is having knee surgery tomorrow, so he had to go to bed early to get rested up for his surgery tomorrow. However, he did send me a DM here that says that his Diva of the Week nominee for season 16, week 4 is none other than the wide receiver from the glorious Lone Star Glory, Mr. Greg Soto, with 2 touchdown receptions of over 70 yards. But his Diva moment is not getting ankle taped at the goal line like he did last week against Houston. And that's what Eagles says the Diva moment of the week is. So Greg Soto is Eagles. Wink, I think, said he does not have a Diva of the Week nominee this week, so we will only have 7, which brings
Nobody was impressive enough to get my vote. Sorry.
So there you go. You got to really impress Wink if you want to get a Diva of the Week nomination. My Diva of the Week nomination, honorable mention to Phoenix Jones, by the way. It came down to Phoenix Jones and the person that I'm about to mention, and I don't need to go through his stats since we dissected them earlier when we talked about the Mexico City game. My Diva of the Week is a wide receiver that plays for Charleston that won the game in the last 8 seconds of the game to avoid upset by DC. I'm talking about the one and only Buchanan Simons, 4 receptions, 108 yards, and only 1 touchdown. But that touchdown to win the game with 8 seconds left is an absolute Diva moment, and he is my season 16, week 4 Diva of the Week nominee. So there you go. So we have 7 nominees this week instead of 8. We will have it. Eagle already sent me the link. I will be posting it in the Access Live server after the show. So if you want your teammate or your friend or somebody you think should win to win, you better vote for him. We had, I think, 100 and something votes last week. So let's see if we can get a lot of votes again this week and see who wins. Yep, there he is, the kid. Exactly, Alan. All right. I don't think we're going to have any After Dark tonight. I was going to have Cam on to recap some of the games, but we're running a little late, and our panelists did such a fine job that I think we're good to go there. Doyle had thought about popping in, but I think he had to go because he wanted to talk about people disrespecting Florida and not giving them enough love, and nobody on our panels picking them to win and that kind of thing. So I think that's out the window. But yeah, long arm of the law out here. Soto had a good game against me, not going to lie. I don't remember who made that shoestring tackle in that game, but that saved and won the game for you guys for sure. All right. Again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. And for those of you who could not tune in tonight due to weather issues, please stay safe. Please stay warm. And we are all thinking of you, praying for you to get through this crazy blizzard action that's happening all across the country right now, this cold front. So thank you to everybody in the chat. Love you guys. Appreciate all the back and forth, all the corrections, the questions, the banter, the whole 9 yards. And DR Sim, that was Benji that nominated you, bro. Just FYI. Also, want to thank Winkler, obviously my producer, who doing all kinds of funny things on the fly as usual, like right over Robert Garrett Jr.'s head, and many other things he does behind the scenes that you guys don't see. Good luck to Eagle tomorrow during his surgery. We're pulling for you, Eagle. Hopefully they get all that wrapped up and fixed, and you'll be back to your normal self before no time. So that's it. That's all we got, everybody. So we will see you in about 48 hours. We will see you right here Thursday night, 9 p.m. on Twitch. So in the meantime, have a glorious Wednesday. Don't forget, there's no NETMA tomorrow. Tyler has moved that show to Friday. And as you can see, Bo Martin Jr. sweatshirt popping right now. And Greg Soto says, anytime Bo is on the show, it's a better show. There you go. All right. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you in 48 hours. Have a glorious Wednesday. We'll see you at the tees.